What connects dinosaurs, wine, and New Zealand? Let's explore the life of Sam Neill. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm really excited to discuss today's topic.
And I'm Garrett. Can't wait to dive into this fascinating life story. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett. All right, let's set the stage for this one. Today we're talking about Sam Neill, 1947 to 2026, whose career stretched across film, television, and even wine growing in New Zealand's Central Otago. Here's a thought I've been turning over. I first saw Jurassic Park as a kid on a creaky VHS at my cousin's place, and I remember being both terrified and totally obsessed with dinosaurs. Sam Neill as Dr. Alan Grant felt like the calm in the storm. That role nudged me into a whole dinosaur phase, but later when I saw him in different stuff like The Piano and darker things like In the Mouth of Madness, I realized he could do grounded hero, thoughtful scientist, and full-on unsettling. It's like watching someone switch gears without grinding them. That versatility stuck with me. It's why I started paying attention to actors beyond just the big franchises.
Let's open the book on this. Sam Neill was a renowned actor and also a vintner, meaning he owned and ran a winery, known for roles in massive films like Jurassic Park, and for prestige television like Merlin and Peaky Blinders. Imagine an actor who can headline a blockbuster on Friday, show up in an indie art film on Saturday, and then narrate a thoughtful documentary on Sunday, all while checking the vines at his Central Otago property. That's the balance he pulled off for decades. Picture this early chapter. He was born in Omagh, Northern Ireland, in 1947, then moved to New Zealand in 1954, settling first in Christchurch and then spending time around Dunedin. His father served with the Royal Irish Fusiliers, which tells you a bit about the family's international threads, and there was a business lineage too, with roots in hospitality and, interestingly, wine importing way back. He went to Christ's College in Christchurch, it's an Anglican school, and later the University of Canterbury, where he briefly flirted with law, failed all 4 units in his first year, and basically pivoted toward theater. And here's a small human detail I find moving. He had a childhood stammer. He said he mostly outgrew it, but traces remained. He felt it gave him empathy and a reflective quality. That kind of vulnerability reads in his performances.
That's something to chew on, huh? While we're on those foundations, why did he go by Sam instead of his given name Nigel? I remember hearing a story about that, but I could use the refresher.
He joked that a lot of kids at school were named Nigel, and he felt Nigel didn't quite fit a New Zealand playground vibe. He picked Sam, and it stuck. It's such a small choice, but it shaped his public identity. Around this time, he deepened his theater ties. He performed in university productions, including a 1969 A Midsummer Night's Dream directed by Ngaio Marsh, who was a major New Zealand theater director and also a famed mystery novelist. He moved to Wellington, finished a Bachelor of Arts at Victoria University of Wellington, played Macbeth in a production directed by Philip Mann, and joined Downstage Theatre as a professional actor. There's this great detail that he earned $25 a week and sometimes took leftover food from the kitchen. It paints the early hustle perfectly. On screen, he started with New Zealand TV films and shorts, like The City of No in 1971 and The Water Cycle in 1972, even writing and directing a short called Phone in 1974 for the National Film Unit. That behind-the-camera curiosity shows up again later with his documentary Cinema of Unease, which is a personal look at New Zealand film history. These early steps laid the groundwork before the big leap.
All right, let's roll on to that leap. In 1977, Sleeping Dogs arrives. This is the New Zealand feature that really broke out internationally, and it wasn't just big for him, it was a signal that New Zealand cinema could travel. After that, he crosses the Tasman to Australia for work, does a guest role on The Sullivans, and then lands opposite Judy Davis, an Australian actor of serious gravitas, in My Brilliant Career in 1979. That film turns him into a compelling romantic lead in the international eye.
Why did Sleeping Dogs have so much impact beyond just being a good movie?
Because it was like the first widely screened New Zealand feature overseas. It cracked a ceiling. Casting directors in the UK, Australia, and the US could suddenly picture Kiwi talent leading films. For him, the early 80s get wild. In 1981, he plays Damien Thorne, the adult Antichrist, in The Final Conflict, and also co-stars in Possession, a psychological horror directed by Azulowski, a renowned Polish filmmaker known for intense, stylized cinema. In 1983, he becomes a major figure on British TV with Riley, Ace of Spies, portraying the real-life spy Sidney Riley and earning a Golden Globe nomination later. He's oscillating between risky art house, mainstream thrillers, and prestige TV. That's a pattern he keeps up for life. By the late 80s, he's in America, that ambitious US miniseries, and then 1989 brings Dead Calm, a tight Australian thriller. Plus, he plays the Marquis de Lafayette in La Révolution Française. In 1990, he co-stars in The Hunt for Red October, a big Tom Clancy submarine thriller, and he's in the Australian black comedy Death in Brunswick. Then 1993 hits. Jurassic Park explodes. He's Dr. Alan Grant, a role that becomes, pop culture DNA. The same year, he's in The Piano, Jane Campion's haunting New Zealand drama that wins the Palme d'Or at Cannes. He also appears in Question of Faith, an independent drama. It's like the perfect snapshot of his range in a single year.
And he keeps it going. In 1995, he does In the Mouth of Madness with John Carpenter, a horror filmmaker best known for The Thing and Halloween. In 1997, it's Event Horizon, a sci-fi horror that becomes a cult favorite. Then 1998 brings Merlin, where he plays the legendary wizard in a lavish miniseries. That nets him an Emmy nomination. On the lighter side, he's in Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams in 1999 and The Dish in 2000, which is a beloved Australian comedy about a satellite dish helping beam the Apollo 11 moon landing to the world. In 2001, he's back with Jurassic Park 3, and he hosts and narrates the BBC documentary series Space, retitled Hyperspace in the US, which gave him this trusted avuncular narrator vibe. On television later, he stands out as Cardinal Thomas Wolsey in The Tudors in 2007, a morally complex political operator in the court of King Henry VIII, and then as Chester Campbell in Peaky Blinders from 2013 to 2014, a chilling and corrupt enforcer. He bounces between screen worlds with that same quiet intensity. And here's a lovely counterpoint. All through this, he's building 2 paddocks, his winery in central Otago, with vineyards near Alexandra and at Gibbston. He was frank that wine growing is time-consuming and not exactly a cash machine, but he loved it. He even shared farm life on social media, naming animals after friends and colleagues in the industry, which made the whole enterprise feel playful and grounded.
Speaking of grounded, the honors show how he straddled local and global recognition. He was appointed an Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1991. Then in 2007, he became a Distinguished Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit. When New Zealand reinstated traditional knighthoods in 2009, he initially said no to converting that honor, joking that Sir felt a bit grand. Later, in June 2022, he accepted redesignation as a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit. It's a nice arc, self-deprecating humor, then eventually embracing the recognition for a lifetime of work.
Let's get to the heart of a tougher chapter, handled with the same candor. In March 2022, he was diagnosed with stage 3 angioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma, or AITL, which is a rare blood cancer affecting T-cells in the immune system. He started chemotherapy, went into remission, and kept speaking openly about it. When chemo stopped working, he underwent CAR T-cell therapy in April 2026 through an Australian clinical trial. CAR-TE is a kind of immunotherapy where doctors engineer your own T-cells to better find and attack cancer cells. He later reported a scan, showed no detectable cancer, and pushed for broader access to these treatments in Australia and New Zealand. Tragically, in July 2026, he died suddenly in Sydney, aged 78, with his family noting he was cancer-free at the time. It's a heartbreaking coda that still leaves you grateful for the advocacy he managed to do.
Yeah, that hits different. Even in those later years, he kept working. He appeared in Hunt for the Wilder People, a 2016 film by Taika Waititi, a New Zealand filmmaker known for mixing humor with heart. And he had this meta cameo as an actor playing Odin in Thor Ragnarok in 2017, and again around 2022. He became a fixture on The 12, an Australian legal drama, and picked up a Silver Logie in 2023 for Most Popular Actor. He also kept narrating and presenting documentaries, winning a New Zealand Television Award in 2019 for The Pacific in the wake of Captain Cook, and he even had an Emmy nomination for narration in 2017. It's like the voice and the presence both became signatures.
Okay, let's move on to a knotty public debate he waded into back in 2016. He criticized New South Wales lockout laws and the greyhound racing ban. For clarity, lockout laws are rules that stop new patrons from entering bars or clubs after a certain hour, aimed at reducing late-night violence. The greyhound ban was an animal welfare policy halting greyhound racing due to abuse concerns that had come to light. He argued those measures, as implemented, hit cultural life and livelihoods too hard. Real talk, I see his point. When local venues dim out, you can lose jobs, live music, the pulse of a neighborhood. It can become harder for creatives to find stages and for small businesses to stay afloat.
That's a solid point. I guess I lean slightly the other way, not gonna lie. If the data show reduced alcohol-related harms like fewer assaults or emergency room admissions, that matters. Public safety is, a baseline. And on animal welfare with greyhounds, if there's evidence of systemic mistreatment, I can see why a government reaches for strong action. The tricky part is calibration. Are you getting real gains relative to the social and economic costs, or are you overcorrecting and squeezing out the city's culture along the way?
Why do you think it felt so blunt to many people? Was it the uniform approach rather than, say, targeted enforcement?
Yeah, that checks out. Broad rules can feel one-size-fits-all. A more nuanced approach might pair safety measures with support for venues to adapt, like transport options, safer staffing strategies, and hotspot policing rather than blanket lockouts. On greyhounds, reforms that regulate, monitor, and penalize cruelty might protect animals without nuking the entire ecosystem of responsible trainers. I think Neill's stance plugged into that balance question. He was basically saying, keep people and animals safe, but don't flatten culture or livelihoods while you do it.
We can't just leave it at that, can we? I do think his comments nudged a wider reevaluation of proportionality. It's not that safety or welfare shouldn't be top priorities. It's that the pathway to them should invite community voices so the cure doesn't feel worse than the disease. That's close to the heart of it for me. Switching gears just a little, pop culture quirks. In Sweden, a 1982 TV film of Ivanhoe based on the Walter Scott novel aired every New Year's Day on SVT for decades, and he became a local celebrity there in a way that's totally different from Jurassic Park fame. It's such a charming example of how broadcasting traditions shape star images country by country.
And Dr. Alan Grant is just etched into collective memory. The hat, the raptor claw, the measured, slightly wary curiosity. It's the kind of character that turns up in memes, Halloween costumes, and people's personal highlight reels of movie history. That's cultural stickiness. Here's another angle to look at. What if he'd been cast as James Bond after Roger Moore? He was in the running, but the role went to Timothy Dalton. If Neill had become Bond, I could see a heavier tilt toward action franchises, maybe fewer chances to do something as offbeat as Possession or as contemplative as The Piano. The Bond schedule and image management can be a full-time orbit.
That's fascinating, and maybe Jurassic Park would have looked different too. Casting directors might have seen him as too associated with suave espionage rather than the grounded, skeptical scientist. Or maybe he plays Bond and still slips into Grant later, but with a different vibe. Real talk. I like that he avoided getting locked into a single identity. Alternating between auteurs and blockbusters let him keep surprising us. Also, imagine 2 paddocks under a full Bond press schedule. Would he still have had the same bandwidth to be in the vineyard, naming animals after friends and posting rye farm updates?
I could get behind that idea that the near miss actually preserved his freedom. Without Bond's gravity well, he does Merlin, The Tudors, Peaky Blinders, Wilder People, and the documentaries. And he builds that neighborly public persona in New Zealand and Australia while still playing in global sandboxes when it suits him. That balance might be his secret sauce.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Stay curious and keep exploring. Until next time.